Okay, I made a couple videos of my tractors the other day, and I felt kind of bad that, you know, I talked about the 210 with the new 16 horse Kohler engine in it, and I never took the time to, you know, go pull start it, because at the time that's what I had to do since it didn't have a starter. But the day after I made that video, I received a new starter in the mail from my good friend DJ. After some negotiating, he sent me another starter. You can see I just dropped it in and mounted it up, everything. It is, contrary to what most people think, it actually is fairly simple to install, or at least to remove a starter while the motor's in the frame. In fact, I actually did it without removing the battery tray too. But I had to take the battery tray out to put it in. I just dropped it straight in there and then, you know, tighten the battery tray down and tighten the cables up and everything, and we're good to go. So yeah, so DJ was nice enough to send me another starter he had. I think this is actually the starter off of my K301 that I gave him because he took that apart. And that starter was originally off my K241, so this starter's been on 3 motors. It's not focusing there. But I think the 10 and 12 horse Kohler use a different starter from the 14 and 16 horse, but we did a little testing and turns out it really doesn't make a difference. So I was just going off of John Deere's parts diagrams, but we figured, you know, I said, you know, just send me the starter off of the 12 horse motor, so off the K301. So I got everything hooked up. I've been charging the battery overnight because I think for some reason, I guess because both of the old motors had bad stators in them, they just slowly ate this battery up, and this is like a $100 interstate battery. So, you know, these batteries are pretty good, and it kind of sucks that this still won't hold the charge very well. I mean, I still have to work it hard and everything. I have to run the PTO and everything once I get that mounted up. But I guess just the last 2 motors it had, and it just kind of ate the battery up from having bad stators. So I don't know, because that was a good battery. But anyway, I let the battery charge overnight, so let's give her a start. I'll show you how easy this thing starts. I'll let you guys hear this thing run. Starts right up on the first crank every time. My hood's a little out of alignment. I'll fix that. And here this thing, for the most part, this thing runs like a top. I need to check the breaker points gap and a couple other little things here and there. Once it warms up, it has a slight miss, but it came from a higher altitude where the carburetor uses different adjustment, and it has the carburetor off of my old 10 horse and 12 horse motor. I use the same carb, so it's not. The carburetor is actually a little small for this motor, but just for, you know, having the wrong carb, it runs pretty darn good. So. The idle turned up a little bit higher because at the regular idle speed, these things love to rattle, especially the 14 and 16 horse Kohler, because these things just make so much torque. It doesn't vibrate too bad, as you can see, because like I said, I have it tuned up. But this is about as low as I'd like the idle to go, because like I said, any lower than that and they rattle this whole thing apart. If any of you guys have ever seen or have ever owned a 300 or something like that, you'll know what I'm talking about. And basically anyone that has a K341. But you can see this thing runs like a top. Nice and smooth. Only has a little bit of smoke when you throttle it up. I think it has a leaky head gasket. And this is the 3rd Kohler K series I've owned, and it's the 3rd one with a leaky head gasket. They all leak in the same spot. I have to fix that. My stupid phone won't focus. There we go. This is a muffler DJ gave me. There's a couple pieces of metal moving around in there. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's not, there's a long story behind that, but I don't want to cut it apart to take it out, because this is the right kind of muffler that it's supposed to have. The one that my uncle welded for me actually cracked where it mounts, and that was an error on my part where I clamped it. So I think I'll have him weld that and swap that back on, but I'm not sure. This is the right muffler for this anyway. And I've determined that there is no way to keep the hood supports from getting all blacked up, getting the paint burned off from the soot. It's not preventable. That's just a design flaw that they had when they built these things. New battery cables. Underneath I put a new circuit breaker and solenoid on. New spark plug wire from the old motor, and a new PTO switch. Bypass the switch too. But as you can see, I don't have the PTO on right now. Like I showed in the other video, I bought a new PTO clutch for it, or a good used one, but it needs a little adjusting. It's not, I think the bearing in it is shot, so I'll have to fix that. I don't need it right now though. Once fall comes around, I'm gonna need it. But it might be a little hard to see in this video. This thing does vibrate quite a bit, but it runs like a top. You can start to hear a little bit of a miss. It's just a matter of making those last couple adjustments. Like I said several times before, it's got the wrong carburetor. Definitely a carburetor adjustment because it smooths out if I pull out the choke. Like I said, just excuse the slight miss. It's got the wrong carburetor and everything, and it came from a higher altitude area too, so you have to take that into account. But I had the high idle set a little higher than normal, so it's probably like 3,800 RPMs. Throttle cable on DJ's 216 kind of wore that sticker off. Once I get the side panels on, it'll be a little quieter. I took the variator all apart and lubed it up and put it back together. Took me a little while to figure out how it goes back together because I never had it out in the first place, but I got it straightened out now. Still runs and drives like a new one. I ordered a spinner knob too. I had to take the old one off of this to put on the 316. But I use that tractor a lot more now, so oops, I guess that was a bad move. I've got a lot of weight on the rear end and I have the lug tires on it, so if I dump the clutch real quick on soft ground, it'll pull a wheelie, which is kind of neat, but it's not recommended because that's not a good way to take care of your equipment. Now this motor's running, like I said, I just have a few last minute adjustments to make on it. And you know, I put the side panels back on. I'll get the after, you know, that's after I get the carburetor set. I'll put the side panels back on. I'll get the hood straightened out. Get the headlights hooked up and working again. And then at some point I have to rebuild the Pto clutch. I have to figure out what's wrong with it. I think one of the bearings is a little out of balance, because if I mount the Pto to the crankshaft, it won't want to start. It tightens up the crankshaft, makes it too hard to turn over for whatever reason. A little slower than usual with the wheel weights on it, but trying to get through my backyard is like a puzzle. So yeah, there you go. For those of you guys who wanted a video of the two, I guess you could say the 216 running, here you go. Like I've said several times, you know, it needs more adjustments. I'll get it all back together eventually. I got the Pto clutch over here. I just need to tear it apart and fix the bearing or whatever's inside there. It doesn't spin evenly, and the pulley has a little bit of slop in it too, as you can see. So I'll have to fix that. But I paid $100 for it, so I really can't complain. And I do plan to use this tractor as a Powerflow bagging tractor. Now that it's got a 16 horse motor, it's got plenty of power to run a bagger. And actually, I told you about this in my last video, but let me show it to you real quick. It's here in the shed. Here's the whole setup here. Believe it or not, I only paid $100 for this setup. It was on Craigslist, and the guy wanted $125 for it, and he was like 10 minutes from here, just down a bunch of back roads. And this setup came off of a 140H3, but I can definitely tell it was built, judging by the serial number tag and by the condition of, you know, all the bolts and stuff, and the plastic. You know, the bolts are not rusted, the plastic's not faded. You can actually still see through the sight glass, or the clear plastic, whatever you want to call it. It's not all faded either. And the bags are fairly new too. Very clean, as you can see. No tears, rips, or anything. They still have the handles in the bottom too. So something told me that this was a newer, you know, bought later. The guy, chances are, whoever had this before bought the Powerflow unit much later than he bought the tractor. So this is a much later one. And it came with all the hardware, which I was actually kind of worried that I wouldn't find one with all the hardware, but it came with the Powerflow blower. There's a plastic fan in there. It came with the belt and the double stack pulley, as you can see right here. That double stack pulley is, the bottom pulley is for the far spindle, and the top pulley runs this little belt, which there's a set of other pulleys in there, and those other pulleys twist the belt so they can drive the fan. And the fan blows it up into the chute that you can see there, and blows it up into the bagger. And it's you know, it's basically like a vacuum. A lot of guys use those Easy Vac vacuums that have their own little 5 horsepower motor and their own blower and everything, but they're very cumbersome to move around and to store. I know because my uncle has one. It hooks to his John Deere 80 car. It's very cumbersome, and like I said, I don't have a whole lot of room to store it. So so I just figured I'd get a Powerflow bagger, be a little easier. And they do, I don't know if you can, I don't know how many videos there are of these things on YouTube. At least on the 200 series, there aren't a whole lot. And usually you could find these 46-inch Powerflows for the 300 series, but very rarely do you see them on a 200 series deck. But they work. They weren't really recommended for 200 series 46-inch decks, because most of the 200 series don't have, like the 210 and 212, don't have quite enough horsepower to run a Powerflow efficiently, you know, without losing any horsepower. But I have a 16 horse in that other tractor now, so that should be all right. I mean, the 214 and 216 are the only one that really have the capability of running a bagger. But yeah, like I said, it came with all the hardware. everything required. And the only thing that I had to buy was this piece. This is the piece that actually mounts the bagger to the rear hitch plate on the tractor. It was one of those weird eBay deals. Usually these things sell for like $60, $75, even used too. But this was one of those weird deals on eBay where they just like painted it and everything. We're just looking to get rid of it. You can see that there's hardly any rust on it. It looks good. And it was one of those deals where they started the list price at 99 cents plus like 15 bucks shipping. And sure enough, I was the only person to bid on it, so I got this for 99 cents plus 15 bucks shipping. So I saved a lot of money there. I just bought it outright, got a good deal on it. And then because I have the rear lift kit on the tractor, I had to cut this piece out with the torch, and then I rounded the ends off. Technically that's not the right thing to do, but I have to take the bolts out of the rear lift kit, stick this on, and then stick the bolt back through. And that's, especially with the fenders on, that's a pain in the butt. So all I did was just I took my uncle's torch and just cut this section out here and rounded it off. So that'll mount, it just mounts to the rear hitch with these two bolts here. And then the bottom of the hopper, as you can see right there, that post slides into here and you stick a pin through it. Real simple. I haven't used this deck at all. When DJ was here a couple weeks ago, I hooked this up to his 212 and we just managed to make it work. So once I get my PTO fixed and mounted up on the 210, I'll be ready to go there. And this should make a nice machine for in the fall when all these trees lose their leaves and there's a big friggin' mess all over the yard. It'll be a good machine for it. You know, it keeps the tractor busy. It keeps it from just sitting around doing nothing all fall. At this point, it'll be just sort of a mowing tractor and a pulling tractor, maybe even a dirt work tractor, but it's not a snowplow tractor anymore. That's the job for the 316. So. You can see the smoke when you rev it up real quick. That's just the head gasket leak. So there you guys go. There's the 16 horse running in the 210 now, or should I say the 216. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Just figured I'd make this for a few of you guys who had asked, and I felt bad about not making a video of this thing running before, but now I have to, you know, now I don't have to tow start it every time I want to start it. You know, starter works good and everything, cranks it over real quick, so that's good. Alright guys, thanks for watching.